Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you. I don't know about you, but I have about 5 inches of snow outside on the ground, and it's absolutely beautiful. I know that we are all across the country sort of experiencing a cold snap. So would love to know who all is here this morning. So if you can just put in the chat your name and where you're tuning in from geographically, that would be great. It'd be great to just see who we have. We are still waiting on Brian from Foundation. He's having some technical difficulties, so we're going to see if we can get him in here. But hi, Kathy. Kathy, we're super excited to see you at our conference coming up. Hi, Tom. Thank you guys for tuning in. Very good, very good. If you guys will bear with me, I'm just going to give our guest, Brian, just a few more moments and see if we can't get him in here. If not, we will be all right. But as we're waiting, let me introduce to you our special guest today. This is Randy Allen. Hi, Randy.
Hello.
Randy, thank you so much for joining us. Randy is the founder and CEO of TASCH, and TASCH is located at in Southern Louisiana. Is that correct?
Yep, we're in New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay, okay. Did I say that right? New Orleans?
Yep, you did pretty good.
Okay. And what's the weather like there for you right now? Are you escaping
Oh,
this?
it's 29 and people are driving and wrecking on the highways and pipes are bursting. And so yeah,
Okay.
we think the end of the world is coming.
Yeah. I get it. I feel that way, even though it was 12 this morning, and yeah, that was way too cold for me. We've got Andrew. Hi, Andrew. You're from California. Very, very good. And we've got a team member here, Catherine. Catherine is on our team. She's tuning in today. I think she said she had negative 11 this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Really, really rough. But well, I'm not sure if we're going to get Brian in here or not, but that is completely okay. Today, we're really excited, mainly to be focusing on Randy. And Randy has been leading his company for a number of years, and he is a leader of a company that is using both of these platforms. So the platforms are Followup CRM and Foundation software. So some of our audience is our Followup users, some of them are Foundation users. And so the first thing that I'd like to do is just give a very high level overview of both of these systems and what they do, so that everybody here in the audience can sort of get their bearings about what it is that we'll be discussing today. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And we are going to take a 30,000 foot view of Followup CRM. Okay, can everybody see this? Very good. All right, so Followup CRM is a cloud-based customer relationship management solution. It's built by contractors for contractors. And some of the main problems that we solve and how we do them are these. We have a lot of owners who are not tracking anything bid-wise, or if they are, it's on, back of the napkin or it's spreadsheets. For that, we have what's called the project page, which is really just a big database with all of the opportunities that are out there in the marketplace for you. Another problem is owners have no visibility into the pipeline, so they're constantly trying to make decisions that are uninformed. And for that, we have the dashboard and lots of reports. And I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I do believe in 2024, we're going to have a custom report builder so that you are able to export any key data that you need. Even if we don't have the report formatted the exact way you want it, you'll be able to do that yourself. But we have upwards of 20 different reports that exist now. Another problem that we solve is that big jobs just keep getting lost. We know that most sales are made between the 7th and 12th follow-up. And so we automate those follow-up sequences. You can set it and forget it and make sure that you're staying very high touch with those opportunities that are out there in the market. so that those big jobs still, you can stay in touch with them without having to be completely at your desk dedicated to doing that all the time. And then, of course, communication chaos. I think we all know that feeling very much. But what we do on each project page, we have a section called project comments so that everybody on your team can orient around the details of each specific project. And that really helps our teams keep very up to date with the status of all of these different bids that are out there. And then finally, no accountability within the sales team. So for lead estimators or VPs or owners who are managing a team of estimators or sales guys, we have created what's called the activities page where you can set quotas. They're very flexible, they're very individualized, based on all different kinds of activities that you yourself already do. And so this system is very, very customizable for you to be able to solve all of those problems for your business. So the bottom line is, on average, our clients see an 18% increase in closing ratio and 10 hours of admin time saved per week. And if you are a math person, which I am not, you can see the math that's done right there. So here we go. I'm going to now give you a 30,000 foot view of foundation software. So foundation software is basically, oh, Brian's here. Brian, hello. I am going to see if I can't get Brian right on time because he is the expert here. I clicked allow to talk. Brian, can you hear us? Can you say something?
I can say something.
Brian, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? I'm so glad you're here.
I am
Sorry about that.
I'm so happy to work for a technology company and somehow struggle with technology.
I know. Don't you love that feeling?
It's the best.
Um, Let me see if you're okay with, we can't see you, but we can hear you just fine. So,
I have
um,
a perfect radio face.
oh,
So
okay, we'll leave it like this then. Brian, you're here right on time. I was about to fumble my way through foundation software. So why don't I kick it over to you and let you just give us a 30,000 foot view of what it is that foundation does.
absolutely. Foundation, we have a whole host of software products for the construction space, from our core accounting application to estimating, project management, timekeeping with our mobile solutions from WorkMax. But today, the core product offering here, Foundation Software, it is your all-inclusive, robust job cost accounting system. And anything from your basic payables, receivables, ledger, and financials, et cetera, all the way through very sophisticated payroll handling, union, non-union, multi-state, multi-jurisdiction, Davis-Bacon, you name it. We can handle any payroll situation. And we also have our payroll for construction payroll service that goes along, and we'll actually process your payroll for you as well, just like your ADPs and paychecks of the world, but focused specifically on construction and still taking advantage of the power of foundation software.
That's great. Thank you. And as you can see, that was a very succinct explanation of an extremely robust set of products. But as you can see, there's a lot of problems here that Foundation does solve. And Brian, you could speak to this more, but what's so beautiful about the integration and the partnership between Followup and Foundation is that Followup really takes everything pre-bid, pre-contract, all of this stuff that, is business development, is getting the business, and Foundation comes in right there once the contract is awarded and handles a lot on the back end. So it's a great partnership, and the integration is extremely smooth. But Brian, do you have anything you want to mention about this bottom line here?
Not so much. I mean, just like you mentioned, pre-job follow-up, once the job is awarded, it's foundation all the way, and tracking it from beginning to end, and really being able to just look at not only what did you think was going to happen, but what actually did happen. And depending on the duration of the job, if it is long enough, being able to look at that, as the job's progressing, and take critical action to make sure that you can right the ship when you notice that things aren't necessarily going as planned.
Yep, that is perfect. Well, thank you all. That's the high level of both systems. Now we're going to hear it from Randy himself. So Randy, thank you again for joining us. First of all, can you just give us a little bit of background or overview information about Tosh, your company, what it is that you do, and how things are going for you guys?
Yeah, thank you. First, let me say thank you for Brian and for you for having me. Tosh was founded in 1993, so we're 30 years old. We sort of morphed into a conventional GC, general contractor, but we also have a large portion of our business is maintenance. So I think a lot of people might say, can I use these systems for maintenance and for general construction? And I would say you can do both. And so, through the years, our company has gone from pen and paper to Excel spreadsheets to now some pretty sophisticated software. And what I do, and what probably a lot of people do, is you think, well, I wish I could just find one solution. We never could find one solution, but we managed to find a couple of solutions that fit our needs, and started realizing a long time ago that about our cost and what it's costing us to do a project or a job. We call projects larger projects, and small jobs we call jobs. And we discovered that software like Foundation was a huge and change for us from QuickBooks Online, which is what we were using as an accounting software. And that was a monumental change for us about 2 years ago. And then when we started working with Followup, the whole idea for us was just to have one spot where we tracked projects, and we really had a bid calendar more than anything. And then Followup has changed and become so much more to us. And so after, here we are 30 years later, I think, our situation continues to change and improve, but we've come so far in being able to track projects and understand what on the front end, when you're bidding work, what you can do with a really, really good CRM. So that's a little bit about Tosh and where we're at right now in the process.
That's great. Thank you. Can I ask what led to the decision to, what issues were you facing that prompted you to adopt Followup? Were you having any of those issues that we mentioned, no visibility, or, sort of like communication chaos, or where is this project standing, things like that?
The main, I can't remember. I wish I could remember exactly how Followup popped into, our life about 2 years ago. But I think we basically were looking for a calendar, a job calendar, a bid calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the simple things, and when you get your entire team working inside of this software, then you see this exponential change. So if I'm the only guy doing something in Followup, and Rachel, I don't know if you realize, but for a long time, Christine can tell you at Followup, I was kind of the only person involved, right? Okay. And now we've got 10 or 12 people. Okay. And when you start having more people involved in the software, then you start to see some real dramatic results. Right. So just simple things like we would bid a job, and a month later, someone would say, well, where's the bid tab? Where's the tabulation? Where did we fall in that? I can't remember. Who was low? Well, we know we weren't low, right? Because we don't have the job. We can't remember who's low. So just having documentation in one place and being able to track that information, that documentation part was huge for us. So I think that's kind of where we started. Like, is there a calendar of when we're bidding these jobs? And do we have commitment from our pre-construction people, our estimating team, that we're going to bid them? And that was sort of the beginning of it. And as I brought more and more people on, and we had more participation, then we started to really get some statistical analysis. We could see what was happening. We understood what a pipeline was and what that meant, and how much work we might have in the pipeline or not, we started to understand what a winning percentage was and how we tracked that. And so all those things became, critically important to now when we bid a job today, I can say, well, who are likely the guys that we're bidding against? Oh, we're bidding against Crescent Commercial Construction. Okay, well, we bid against them on 15 other jobs this year. And we were lower than them on 14. And by how much? And what was their price? So now we know going in what our competition's doing. Now what we did recently is we started tracking our subcontractors. So
Okay.
as subs bid with us, we attach their record to that job record. And we know every time Acri Electric bids a job with us. So we know how much he's participated. So are we going to invite him the next time? So this
Mhm.
led us to all sort of paths inside of Followup. And when we finally decided how to press the button, and one more button was to push that job. Once it was awarded, once we knew we would change the job status from bidding or from pending to awarded.
Mhm.
Oh, wow, that was a nice understanding. We could hit the button and that job would be created instantly in Foundation.
Mhm.
And then we can begin tracking the job performance and the job cost in Foundation.
That's fantastic. I'm just curious to those of you who are in the audience. I want to invite your participation in the chat here. And this is sort of a broad question, but I am curious to know if you integrate your softwares in general, or if you use your softwares separately from one another and require your staff to make double entry. So if you could put in the chat, and I mean, I'm asking, maybe you are a Followup and a QuickBooks user, or a Followup and a Foundation user, or you use some other CRM, or, all of us to get our jobs done every day, we're using 5 different systems to do anything, right? I mean, a perfect example is even your email, Outlook and Followup. They integrate, and I'm sure Foundation has integrations for email too. I'm just curious to know in the chat, do you typically take the time to set up the integrations between your softwares, like Randy's saying? So when you integrate Followup and Foundation, there's one button to push, and all of the project and contact and company information from Followup streamlines right into a new job in Foundation. So it makes it very, very easy. But I am curious to know, is that something that you guys in the audience take the time to do, or do you rely on your folks to manually enter those things separately? So we'll keep going with a couple more questions. Thank you for explaining all of that. Randy, can you tell us a little bit about how Followup or Foundation has changed the way that you've done business? So that was a great entry about what led you to adopt it, but how has it changed the way that you do business now?
Well, Followup in particular has been, a remarkable addition to what we're doing. And I'll just say what your question was just then previously is that we, as contractors, we're all just sort of looking for a start to end program, whether that's, Foundation or Procore, or you can name a whole bunch of different things. And I don't know if that really, I don't know if that's the solution, because what we discovered was, find something that works well for you. Get past the learning curve. We talked about that the other day. That's so difficult, and it's so hard to keep people engaged and not to lose them. And everybody becomes an expert and can tell you all the stuff that this great software can't do for them when they're really just not quite over the learning curve. And we just pressed through that. It was really, especially with Foundation, and Brian and I have had this discussion in the past, is that everybody wants the software to do something that they thought of last night. And it simply does what it does, and you have to get through the learning curve. What those two products have done for me, Foundation has allowed us to track the cost of a project. And so if we're doing $3 million job or if we're doing a $10,000 job, we know what we spent on that job, and we can go through that job and know with confidence, not only what we've spent, but what cost codes we've spent it on. So that takes a lot of effort to put that into the process and have people really buy into it and have everybody participate. And you'll quickly discover that, we've had a couple of people that aren't here anymore, and because they just didn't want to be a part of it. And well, that's okay. We want to be a cutting edge contractor. We want to lead in this technology space, and I think that's the only way you're going to really survive and maybe scale up and be what you want to be. I mean, if you want to be, a smaller contractor, yeah, this doesn't maybe apply. But if you're trying to grow your business, then these are tools that truly work if giving the time and the effort to get through the learning piece. So Foundation did that for us. It allows us to really know what we've spent. And that's just, it sounds so simple, but it's really not.
Right.
It's very complicated. It
Right.
takes a lot of teamwork. It takes a lot of people participating in a lot of different ways. Now, follow-up is the fun piece. I love Foundation. I love what it does. It's a great accounting thing, but follow-up is just the fun act. It's where the fun is, because it allows all of our account managers, our project managers, all of the people in business development, our sales team. The sales guys really use it as a CRM, as a client relationship management tool. We can look at their report card. We know if they haven't called on a customer in a while, because we have that maintenance side of our business, right? So we really want to know who's calling and who's keeping up with their clients. Or are they proposals and prices and meeting deadlines? We know. And they enjoy doing it now because they see the result. And we can go back and we can see the entire story of that client, that customer. And that's a great thing, either by notes or activity logs or follow-ups. So we know what the guys have done to get to a point with that client. And then on the project side, I mean, we're bidding an $8 million job this week. Everything about that job, it's a public bid. Everything about that job sits inside of follow-up. The drawings, the addendum, the questions, everything related to our estimate. All of the subcontractors that are going to be pricing it to us, what they've said about it. The powerful piece of follow-up that we are just now beginning to use is the emails. So how often did you go check your email to see what you said to a particular sub? Well, now everybody on our team can see my email to that sub or the estimator's email to that sub and his response. And when he provides us with pricing, we see the email from him inside of follow-up.
Right
So
there with
the
the project, right?
Yeah, the power of that is I can go back a year from now and I can see everything about that job. And all of a sudden, a year later, after we've been using follow-up for a year and a half. And so early on, we had a lot of naysayers here. A lot of people said, really too much trouble. And actually, once you get moving in follow-up and foundation both, it's not too much trouble. It's a lot less trouble. But we now have data. We have really meaningful data. We know how many jobs we bid. We put goals of how much volume we want to bid. We want to bid $10 million worth of work a month, and we want to achieve 1 million. And so now we know our win ratio.
Right.
We bid $120 million worth of work last year. We were awarded 12 million. So we got 10%. We also know what's in our pipeline.
Yes.
So in foundation, we forecast the work that we have. We have $10 million worth of backlog under contract. We got to go do that work. Let's forecast that inside of foundation. Foundation has a really cool forecasting piece, and we can do a work in progress, a WIP report with backlog. So we see all that. But follow up is even more. That's the fun stuff. So I got $40 million in the pipeline with follow up. Well, how do you wind up with $40 million? Those are the jobs that I've bid. I'm waiting on responses to, or jobs that I am bidding. And I know that my closing rate or my win percentage ratio is about 10%, historically.
Mhm.
And so now I can take some of the fear,
Yes.
this horrible industry that we call construction, that keeps us, that makes us scared and worried and afraid. You go to bed afraid you don't have enough money tomorrow. You wake up the next morning, you discover you did have enough money to get going again. And now you got to go do some work and you're trying to get your team together. And then the last thing you need is I can't log in to Foundation and now I'm aggravated. But
Zoom.
yeah, well, I'm sorry. You couldn't log into Followup and you're aggravated. So,
Or a webinar.
so the forecasting piece takes, if there's one part about it, it's that it allows us to say, I proof positive have $10 million worth of backlog. I have $40 million worth of stuff in my pipeline. My win percentage is 10%. So I should win 4 million of that.
Okay.
So I've got 10 million in backlog, got 4 million in the pipeline. I should win. I've got $14 million. How does that make me sleep a little bit better? I can sleep a little bit better
Yeah.
knowing what I've got now, because I don't meet Joey in the hallway that says, oh, by the way, I talked to West Jefferson Hospital and we're going to do 15 more rooms next month. And so that's another $200,000. Well, Joey, if you would have told me that, I probably could have enjoyed Christmas a little bit better. When did you find this out? Well, I was talking to Eric and around Thanksgiving, he told me. I was like, well, when are you going to tell me? I'm trying to run a business. So now Joey knows. Joey knows he's putting that job as a project profile. He's putting it in Followup.
Mhm.
I see it when he emails Eric. I see the correspondence. If there's a drawing related to it, it's in there. Everything is there. And it's not just for me to see. It's for my administration people to see. It's for my operations guy to see. So you would never have a handover meeting as easy
Mhm.
as you will now, because all of that information is sitting right there in one place. And so we say, if it's not in Followup, it didn't happen. You said you did it, but you didn't do it because you didn't write it down. You didn't do it in Followup. And we just stuck to that. And like I said, there were, some folks that we pulled along kicking and screaming. It took a long time.
Sure.
And we lost a few people along the way. But I can say we're in a different place than we were 2 years ago. And the place that we're in right now is a lot better for us. And I'm sure there's a bunch of participants. I'm looking down there now. The only reason I want to be a part of this webinar is because I want to be able to say that, proof positive that that story exists. And for us, it has not been easy, but it sure has been rewarding. And I think I mentioned a while back that there's a sense of pride with doing that. And there's also a sense of direction. You can't ask a software to run your business for you. You have to run it. You have to lead and you have to have a direction. But you certainly can use these tools. And it also creates a high level performance of the people that are working for you and working with you. And they have a direction. So if you hire somebody new, boy, it's easy to turn them on to this and say, this is how we do things here at TASCH.
Right.
And it makes better sense than saying, here's some ideas about how we think we should run our business. No, this is what we do. This is how we do it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. It's so good to hear that. And you bring it all back to that, really the challenges of running a business. And I've heard this said before, but it's so true. Once you get a year's worth of data, man, it's like turning the lights on. It's like,
That's a big thing.
We can operate now and make decisions differently based on all this meaningful data that does exist. Brian, did you have anything you wanted to ask or add?
Yeah, I was actually, as we're talking about all this, and Randy, you're talking about just how you've lost some people during this transition into starting to use these applications. People who just don't necessarily want to adapt to the way that you are going to run your business. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on the value of continuing education. I come from the consulting space here with Foundation for many years before I got into the business development side. And, for years, I've worked with clients on an ongoing basis who underutilized our software because they just didn't know what they could do. They got so caught up in their day to day, and they're paying their bills, they're getting their payroll out, and they're billing, and it's great. But QuickBooks can do that too. How do you go about getting to the next level?
Well, look, I think the first thing is, Daniel, my business development guy, sitting here listening, but he said something the other day that was meaningful. He said, you were for many, many years, and we've been here 30 years, and for many years we were in survival mode. So if you're in survival mode, then just try to survive and make your business grow, and do what you can, because I spent years and years and years looking at my clients and looking at my customers and architects and projects, and really, out there making sure those things work. And I spent very little time internally and inside in our systems and how we do things.
Mm-hmm.
And so once once we got to a level where we weren't just in survival mode, and of course, you create survival mode for yourself, because I think we're all just creatures of habit. We just kind of get up and we work and put out fires. And so you got to get past that mindset and say, I'm going to build a better mousetrap today for my company and for the people around me. We're going to take care of the 20 people or 10 people or how many ever people there are that are employees, and they're going to take care of our jobs and our projects and our customers. We had one fella that said, a few years ago when we started with this, you can't run your business on a legal pad and pencil, and you're going to pretend that you can run it with these sophisticated softwares. I mean, it was really, that was a blow, right? I mean, that's critical. And I said, there's some truth to that. I'm not holding these project managers to a certain standard because I don't even know the results. I don't know how much it's going to cost to finish a job. I don't know how much I've spent. I got an idea, but not a very good one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a little bit of truth in it. Of course, he didn't stick around long enough to see what would happen. He thought it was time for him to move on. And I think you're going to lose people along the way. So that's difficult, especially with folks that's been there for a while. And I don't want to do anything to hurt my people. I certainly don't want to run them off. I don't want to tick anybody off. But there's work that has to get done. So these systems, or that checks and balance that that the work is getting done correctly. So I think that's a major part of it, Brian. You have to, along the way, you have to kind of draw a line and say, this is what we're doing. There's a lot of different things you could buy. There's a whole lot of products on the market, and that's a very, very aggravating thing. There are a lot of options, no doubt. And there's a lot of things in Foundation and a lot of things in Followup that we don't use. Like, I don't use the proposal writer that you guys just came out with. I think I might. We're going to explore it, but we don't use it. But what I do use is very effective, and we've put our our company into these two pieces, and we're going to stay with it. And for us, it works. It works really, really well. I don't think you necessarily lose people along the way, but no, we lost another guy. I'm not going to mention names, but we lost another guy who said, I just think the company has passed me by. And he was a superintendent. He's a very good superintendent. And we wanted notes from the field. We wanted a daily job log. And so I guess we did leave him behind. I still have a lot of, mixed feelings about it. So, I think there's a tremendous place for this. I was watching, a YouTube documentary last night with Mike Rowe where they were building the stadium in Las Vegas, where they mentioned that the success of the build of that stadium by McCarthy and Montgomery, huge construction companies, were, in large part because of softwares that they were using there. And so I think that these are affordable options that work for small businesses like ours, that can be transformative. They can really make a difference in the future of your business.
That is fantastic to hear. I wanna ask you, have you found it easier to run your business on a software rather than running your business with pen and paper, with a legal pad? That statement, you can't really run a business on a legal pad with a pen, is, you mentioned there's some truth to that, not you personally, but because that is very, very difficult to do. You know what I mean? Have you found that things have gotten easier for you as an owner because you have made this very hard transition?
It's become a lot easier. I mean, I think that, Brian and I were talking about it and with you too, is that initially you think, oh my God, what have I got myself into? You
Right.
just kind of push through that. And yes, it's remarkable how it is to run this business. There's so much data,
Mm.
and so the first thing is, can we collect it and collect it properly? And who's going to collect it?
Mhm.
And for what purpose? And then when you do collect the data, what is the data telling you? So then what are you doing to make decisions about it? And we know that, the way we were running the business in the past is we really didn't have a certainty about cost.
Mhm.
We didn't know. And if we knew anything, we knew that overall the job made money, or overall the job lost money. But we couldn't tell you what cost code, cost class, and why. And
Mhm.
now we can do that, and we can provide work in progress reports to our bonding company. So a lot of good things about foundation. But I think overall the biggest issue is what it does, and I mentioned this several times, psychologically, what it does to the people around you. You are running a different kind of business. You're running
Mhm.
a professional business. You're running a business that has limits and has priorities and has work that gets done every day because your software demands it of you. And so you've kind of, brought everybody's level, up to be there. And then on the follow-up side, yeah, I mean, I like tomorrow with that bid that I mentioned. If, I'll get a pretty good indication tomorrow morning who is going to bid that job.
Mm.
And you can bet I've got a dossier on every one of them. I know every competitor, what he's bid, when he bid it, because it's all right there in follow-up. We can go right back and know what happened. So I really, really, really love the follow-up component. And I especially like seeing, if I'm up in the middle of the night, I can look and see what a guy is doing with a particular account. Uh,
Mhm.
we record everything that we do with customers, record everything that we do with public bids and architects.
Mhm.
Uh, if there's a particular architect that's going to be on a job, we can go back and we can pull all those projects related to that architect. So Inline Associates in New Orleans is a great architect. We've done a lot of work with them. And I can go find 25 jobs that we bid. Now, we didn't get them all. We got 2 or 3 of them.
Mhm.
But I mean, when I go back and look, I can tell you all those jobs that I bid. And I kind of remember Dad having a tally book, we called it, because it looked like a little tall, skinny book that he could put in the back of his pocket. And he had all that information too.
Wow.
He did, he would write it down. He would keep notes about all his competitors, about subs, but it was all in his brain, it was all right here. So
Amazing.
you can't scale that, right? Unless you can
Right.
get a whole bunch of Jack Allens, So you couldn't do it, but now we have all that data. We have it all in one place.
Mhm.
Um, and being able to, you mentioned a while ago, if we put a new lead, a new client, a new company, because you got to get used to the nomenclature and the wording. But if
Yeah.
we put a new company, which is a customer or a client, whatever, it could be a competitor, right? It could be a subcontractor, 1,000 different ways to sort through that information, which is great. But if we put that new company in follow-up, we click of the button and that new client or customer goes to foundation. So seamlessly it gets pushed, just like the project gets pushed when we go from bidding to awarded. So if we go to awarded, that's when we're going to have a handover meeting or handoff meeting where the project becomes ours. And now we go from, pre-construction to construction. We move everything to foundation and we start tracking the cost of that job. We found out what the original recipe is, which is the estimate that our estimators put together in pre-construction. And then we build, have our senior project manager build a budget. And then we create schedules and create submittals and create all those great things that you do post-construction when you start building a job. So it's in that process of being able to push things from follow-up into foundation that saves those numbers of steps. And it's a lot more than just double entry. It's not just that. It's having that job, the excitement of it being awarded and ringing the bell.
Yeah.
And it getting pushed to foundation. And then everybody who's a part of this, the accounting side or the project side sees, oh, there's a new project in here. Guess what? It goes instantly to forecast. We know how much money what are we going to burn? How much of that what's the burn rate? How much are we going to burn every month? So I think that, there's no perfect world, but and having it the way we have it with follow-up and foundation, I think we've found something that works really, really well here at TASCH.
That's perfect. That's great. Brian, do you have anything else that you'd like to ask or add?
I don't think so. I think you've covered it very thoroughly.
Yeah, thank you. I want to open it up to everybody who's tuning in for Q&A. So please post in the chat if you have any questions at all. Questions about follow-up, I'll take. Questions about foundation, Brian will take. And questions about the actual real world, Randy will take. Actually be out there running a
Fear.
construction.
I'll handle all fear and greed questions. Everything about greed, fear, nervous, all of those stuff.
To you, yeah.
I'll do those.
Yes, please do feel free to ask in the chat. We'd be happy to hear what you have going on. Tom says, can you go over the forecasting that Randy mentioned again? How does it work in both? Randy, do you want to just elaborate a little bit on what exact elements you're able to forecast in foundation and follow up? And I can also speak a little bit.
Yeah, I just can tell you what we do and why it works so well is if you've had a good year and you say, ooh, this is probably never going to happen again. So then you say, well, what do I know? Well, I passed Joey in the hall. He mentioned something about a couple $100,000 job that we might get in March. Okay, well, then that's what forecasting is. If I could write that down in my pen and paper, I can keep up with that. The problem is I've got a lot of data coming in and some of it's not getting captured at all because Joey, he just happened to want to speak that day. So he said something, but there's probably a lot of times Joey passes me in the hall and he don't say anything, right? So we've created systems that they must speak and they must speak in a digital way. So you forecast in foundation for work that you already have. So if you bid a job and you were successful and it's a $500,000 job and you're going to do it over 5 months, you could say in foundation, okay, I've got $100,000 worth of business, January, February, March, April, and May. That's good. At least I got $100,000 in January. And so, the question of, well, what the hell are we going to do in May because we ain't going to work? Well, you got 100,000 in May because you got that contract. So now you're looking at reports that tell you got 100,000. So if you got a bunch of work and you've been awarded that work, then you're forecasting the work that you have. And so the other side of the puzzle is, what about all the work I don't have that I'm bidding or I might bid or Joey mentioned in the hall? Okay, well, that's the fun stuff in follow-up. That's your pipeline. What's in the pipeline? What might happen? And I know historically our win ratio is about 10%. And we could do that by dollars, and we could also do that by number of jobs. I bid 100 jobs, I'll get 10. If I bid $100 million worth of work, I'll get $10 million worth of work. So I want to bid $10 million worth of work this month so I can get $1 million. So I know my ratio. So if I've got inside that pipeline, inside of follow-up, if I've created projects that I'm bidding tomorrow, like I'm bidding that $8 million job, that's actually in my pipeline. Why? I might get it. I mean, I'm probably not going to get it, right? But I might, it depends on who shows up. What kind of idiots, what kind of other idiots show up besides me? So I might get it, right? So inside of follow-up in my pipeline, I've got a lot of categories. One of them is bidding. One of them is pending, something I've bid and I'm waiting on. So right now I've got $40 million worth of stuff I've been talking about. And once I click the button and I find out I lost it, then it comes out of my pipeline. It's gone. I no longer have it. I thought I was going to get that $8.5 million job tomorrow. We bid it. We lost it. It's no longer in the pipeline. Pipeline goes to $32 million tomorrow. So, it's a pre-construction and a post-construction. It's pre-award and post-award. If you don't know yet, but you have a chance of winning some work, it's in your pipeline. And if you combine those two, you say you can really start to take some of the fear out of life. I know I've got $10 million worth of backlog under contract I got to go do. And that's going to get me, that's 9 months worth of work. And I know I've got $40 million in the pipeline and my win rate's 10%. That's $4 million. So it's $14 million I should have. And as anybody here finds out about additional work, a project, a customer, a client, they know the first move is to put it in follow-up. You put it in there. It's in you select a sales status. What is the status of that potential work? And when you select that status, it's going to go in our pipeline and we're going to know about it. So it's those two things combined. For me, if your question was, how do you know about, how do you really forecast? Those are the two pieces of the puzzle. We combine those two things in our mind and we know what 2024 might look like.
That's so great. Yep, that's exactly it. And I'll add just a little bit from the follow-up side. One thing that can be done once you've mastered that, once you have that data, once you know your closing ratio, and again, we just know it all depends on, do your people actually put the data in the system? But once you know that closing ratio and hey, I win about 10%, if I can just bid, if I can increase the number of proposals that are getting out the door each week, I know that we can increase and keep our closing ratio the same. We know that we can bring in more jobs. So then how do we set our quotas up for our people per person in order to just increase a little bit more bids going out the door? That's one way to take the data and make decisions. Another way to do it is to take the data and say, actually, how can we increase the closing ratio? Let's keep the number of bids going out the door the same. How can we increase the closing ratio? And we have a number of reports that can help you with that. And I won't go into them. I won't screen share because it's a lot, but executive overview bid report is a great report for that. Lead recap report and dead recap report. Those two reports are going to allow you to see what we won and what we lost divided in lots of different ways. So you can see, oh, our sweet spot is multifamily condos. Then let's let hospitals go or whatever it is. Right. And let's just zero in on where we're winning. That's one way to do it too. So data is power, right? Information is agency. And so Randy's talked a lot about that exact topic, but that's one other way to slice the data up in follow-up. Brian, did you have anything to add about forecasting with Foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. The job cost side of things is obviously very critical, right? We have the estimates, we know how this job should go, and a lot of systems you can use to quote unquote track the costs of projects, right? And one of the strengths of Foundation really is, once you understand how things flow, to be able to use tools like overhead allocation to really track your true labor burden.
Yeah.
Not just saying, hey, we're going to tack on 25% to cover our labor burden. Well, what if that is only 18%? You got 7% of your labor there. You're potentially overbidding on these jobs, which is great if you're getting jobs. But
Right.
if you're losing jobs because you're bidding too much because you think you have to, that's going to impact your close ratio, right? So it all works together to be able to use the post award system like Foundation to get down and really hone in on what are your true costs and where can you shave dollars off those bids if there's really a job that you absolutely want, and even looking at the original versus the change orders. I know, Randy, you and I talked at length about this, right? About we could bid a job at a loss because we want the job, because we know that this particular customer generally has, just about the same amount of work in change orders as they do in the original contract. And we can really make our money back on these change orders. So the ability to pull that data from your accounting system, really digesting, the job data, it's critical.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And we were putting 1.5% for builders risk policies, and we saw a trend job after job that it wasn't costing us that. Over and over and over, we went upstairs and said, Craig, quit putting this builder's risk 1.5%. Where'd you get that from? Oh, that's something we've always done. No, but it's not costing us that anymore. And likewise, when we're doing T&M work, we thought, oh yeah, 30% is enough to cover our overhead, but not all the indirect costs. I got a truck that went out there with a driver and a helper, and I'm putting diesel in it, and I'm not billing that job. Well, we don't know what our true costs are until we really start tracking all of our costs. That was another huge piece of Foundation software that we started using, we didn't do in the past. Bobcat was on a job, but that's on a job. Now it's being charged on the job at $25 an hour,
Right.
job cost, because we're paying a lot of money for that Bobcat. But yeah, I think that that when you start to commit to and lead your team to capturing the data, and that's what you're trying to do. You're gathering all this data up, and if you commit to doing that, and you don't allow people to do otherwise, you sort of wake up one day and things are a lot different, and they feel different, and they are different, and you have a better understanding what your business is doing and what its potential is to do. And that's what we really want to know. We want to know we want to discover more what the potential is here. And I think the potential is much bigger than the effort and then what we see with the group. And not because we got guys that are lazy, is that we're not leading them. We're not showing them. We've not dedicated ourselves to a process. And that's what we finally, a couple of years ago started turning inwards and saying, we really need to do better internally. We just can't keep doing it the way we were doing it.
Right. Well, we are almost at time, but Randy, I cannot thank you enough. This has been very.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Brian, thank you for fighting through the technical difficulties and getting here.
I received my emails to join as a host about 15 minutes after the start. So
Well done, bro. Well done.
Yeah.
That's not your fault.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I'm blaming the refs.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, blame the refs. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody, real quick, if you're not a Foundation or a Followup user and you are interested in learning more and getting a custom demo, because I'm sure that this is true of Foundation as well. All of our demos are customized to your company. So we like to hop on calls with people and really we're not giving you a blanket statement. Here's our product. We like to work with you and just see it. It's a partnership. What can we do for you? So if that is something you're interested in, please do jot down these email addresses. You can reach our product specialist, the other Rachel. There are two of us here, our good Rich. Oh, great, Tom. I'm glad to hear that. Really glad to hear that. Or you can reach out to sales@foundationsoft.com. And Tom, I'll just also say we also do 2 and 3 demos for people. So if you have additional questions, and I'm sure that's true of Foundation too, please do reach back out. We're happy to do a second or a third and make sure that we're very thorough with your data and what you need from the system. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. We just really, really appreciate it. And hopefully this was a very big value add. I know it was for me. I love getting behind the scenes. And so Randy, most of all, thank you so much for sharing all of that information.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you both.
Okay.
Thank you, Rachel, for putting this together, and Randy for joining.
My pleasure. And if anybody wants to communicate with me, they can call or email. I'm glad to talk about these products. And thanks for having me, Rachel.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody, stay warm out there. And thanks again for
Yes.
joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.